Say the world goes crazy and they do date for a while. 3 years later, they're not going to be screwing in the backyard in the grass. That is
Not sustainable.
Not sustainable. So don't be in a committed relationship if that's what excites you.
Welcome to Cocktails and Gossip, the podcast where we drink cocktails, but you better believe we're going to spill the tea. We chat reality TV, celebrity blinds, and the hottest tea from BravoandCocktails.com. And as always, it's all alleged and just for fun. We do not verify our blinds. I'm B.
And I'm Amanda. Let's get into this week's tea.
What's up, cocktailers?
Hi, cocktailers. Okay, so gloat time. A month or so after we posted that BravoCon will be in Las Vegas, Andy comes out yesterday or 2 days ago saying, hey guys, guess what? BravoCon's going to be in Vegas. Same weekend and everything. Same venue. We totally called it.
I know, listen, you know me, Amanda. I don't pay attention to the reviews because, like Pitbull says, if they're talking about you, it's because you're doing something right, whether it's positive or negative. I'm big Pitbull fans, guys. I'm only teasing. But the reality is not one other account posted Vegas. And as a matter of fact, I was contacted to be like, how do you know this?
Yeah.
Again, I will never share. The only thing that made me nervous, and I said it on the pod, is I was nervous because I was saying to myself, if this isn't true, I don't want people to somehow lose money, like if they booked a room, whatever. So that had me on the edge. But and then when he started teasing it, I mean, I pretty much knew. I was nervous. Listen, I mean, you book a flight and you book a room and then it ends up being New York City again. That would have been really a lot of annoyed people, and rightfully so, right? Which is why I was like, don't book. But for those of you that did, I'm happy you got those cheaper prices because the prices are getting wild.
Are they?
Yes.
Ugh, I haven't even looked yet.
I don't even know if we'll share what we're going to end up doing until after BravoCon because, you know, we got to keep that anonymous vibe going. And certainly in Vegas, I mean, shit, we could put wigs on.
Go in our like showgirl costumes.
You know, this is not the first time now you've mentioned us being showgirls. I'm starting to get nervous.
No, the reason I laugh, because I'm not a huge Vegas person, but I find myself there for work and stuff almost, I guess, yearly, once a year. And the reason I say that is because it's like, there's the people on the strip, there's like Creepy Elmo. It's like kind of like Times Square, right? Like Creepy Elmo, Spider-Man, and showgirls. Like that is like who you see that like people like sign up. So I'm like, anyway, nobody would look twice at us if we were dressed as showgirls, except they would probably look twice at me because they would be like, what showgirl has like a mom tummy?
First of all, you don't. Second of all, I think Vegas is, and we've discussed why it's a great spot. I do agree it's a great spot. I think it makes sense. I personally don't. I've been to Vegas 1, 2, 3, 4 times. I don't know. First of all, it's far for me.
Mm-hmm.
Second of all, I don't love gambling. So like I'm at a point in my life where it was fun when I was like more into like the nightlife scene. But now for me, I'd rather be in like the Bahamas. It's quicker. It's a beach. We're day drinkers, Amanda.
I know.
And day drinking in a casino just doesn't hit the same way. But listen, it is first weekend in November, so it's beautiful weather there.
Mm-hmm.
I was once in Vegas, Amanda. Now, I mean, I was young, okay? Just you'll see how young when I tell you this. Like mid-August.
Ooh.
It was so hot. I mean, but what do I know, right? I'm from New York. I'm dopey. I was like 20 exactly. We had just turned 21 and we were there and it was tons of fun, but out by that pool, like you could fry an egg on your belly.
Oh, for sure. The desert, somehow found myself there for 2 things within a couple of months of each other this year. And it's beautiful. When I was there in December, there was snow in the mountains and there was like a little bit of a chill in the air, but it was still sunny and nice. And so November will be like, it'll be perfect. I don't know if the pools will be open, but like It'll be really nice weather. And it just, like we said, it just makes sense. They can handle the people. They have plenty of venues. It's a big draw for people outside of BravoCon. So people who maybe want to bring their husbands who have no interest in Bravo, like it just checks a lot of boxes. So.
And in addition to us saying Vegas, we also said Caesars Forum. And in fact, that is where the convention will be.
Yep.
And again, guys, this is what I'm hearing. So if you go out of your way to book Resorts World and talent isn't there, like, don't hold me to it. But I am hearing that the talent, most of which will be staying at Resorts World. We know that when they had it in New York, they all stayed at Gansevoort. Gansevoort, whatever the heck it's called, which we also had word of beforehand. Not far enough in advance for out-of-towners to book, but certainly it was far enough in advance for everyone to pop up and do those parties. So please do stay tuned. I am posting as it comes in to Insta, to bravoandcocktails.com. I'm sharing all the info with you. And we know from the New York, from like just this past BravoCon, the talent loves to hang. Like, they're in the bar, wherever they're staying, they're in that bar, they're hanging with the fans. It's really a good time. I don't know ticket prices. A lot of you are asking me, tickets are expensive. Tickets are expensive. I mean, a one-day general admission is, I don't remember exactly, maybe less than 200, but close to 200. And then your VIP for one day, you're talking 500. Your SVIP, you're talking 1,000. And this was last year. Are they saving costs on Vegas, and will the prices stay the same? Potentially. I don't see them going down. That wouldn't make sense because, And the other thing is, how big do they need it? Like, do they want to just charge more and not be accessible? I don't know. I think Bravo wants to be accessible, right? I think that's part of the reason they're giving the West Coast a shot, and they're doing it someplace. Even though, like, people laugh when we say affordable because you're looking at these flights and hotels, it is more affordable than a New York City hotel. It is more affordable than a hotel in LA. So it is, for your average folk, more affordable. Like, for me, hey, listen, I'm in New York City, so nothing can be more affordable.
Right.
Because I just paid the tickets and the Uber. But, you know, it is what it is.
Well, I was listening to Two Teas in a Pod when Caroline Manzo was on, and they were talking about BravoCon and how Teddy had interviewed her there. And I thought they brought up a great point, which is get some cameras rolling in the hotel where all the talent is staying, because so much shit went down just within that Gansevoort. So I hope that that's something that I hope Bravo's listening to them or listening to us, because I couldn't agree more that we want to see that. But you know what?
I'm going to push back on that. While I think it's a great idea, I do, and of course everyone has their smartphones and anyone can like take a flick or whatever. I do feel that the talent will behave differently with cameras up, and they are working those long hours that I don't know if we want to go that way and then deter them from hanging.
That's a good point. Also, Vegas is difficult with filming and sound because of all
You've
the noise.
said this, right? You've said this many times when we're always like, why are there no Vegas housewives? You remind me of that.
Well, because like I have a thing, like I get overstimulated in Vegas sometimes, and like I have chosen sometimes when I'm there for work to stay at a hotel that doesn't have casinos in the lobby for just that reason, because it's sometimes it's a lot, especially if you have to be there for work and be there for more than a couple days. It gets old. So good point. I think that's a good point.
I don't think that they will set up cameras for that reason. I think that they have to give them a break. And I think that people will just go up to their room or go elsewhere to hang. Like, if I'm a Bravo Lab, honestly, you're putting up cameras, I'm hopping in, I'm going to, like, the Golden Nugget where no one's going to find me.
I love going to Old Vegas, though.
Right.
Like,
I'm going to Old Vegas.
It's so fun.
Yeah.
It is fun. And I like, because I'm not a big gambler either, but if you can find like a $5 or $10 blackjack table, I will totally sit down and play. So, okay. So, Scandival, the story that never stops. This week, the big thing was Howie Mandel, completely random, interviewed Tom Sandoval on the podcast. I watched the YouTube. All I can say is, wow. What do you think?
I'm going to be honest. I just watched clips. I couldn't sit there and watch him. I posted it for Bravoandcocktail.com GassUp.com for everyone that wanted to. The clips were enough for me. I know Bravo is pissed. Bravo is really pissed. I don't think it's a coincidence. I think that he wanted to go on because he thought somehow that going on with somebody who was unprepared and violating his contract would be a good look for him. Unfortunately, he can be fined now. He can actually be fired now. They could switch him to episodic to day pay, which I don't even really understand. But my source said, okay, B, put it to you this way. Do you see Sandoval and Ariana's house versus Brock and Sheena's? We know that Brock and Sheena have since got a nice house, but in other words, it's a very large pay difference. And I am hearing that they will punish him. And like, he can act like he'll quit, but there's no life for him after Bravo. So him quitting is fine and well if he chooses to just do free concerts in the park. But that's the end of him if he quits Bravo. He's done.
Yeah. And I mean, there's a lot of other hands in this situation, or not hands, a lot of other people involved with his decisions, as we've said before, right? Because he's got the 2 bars that his name is on. He's got Schwartz. He's got the other business partner, Greg, at Schwartz and Sandy's. Like, well, we should read that email, because I read the email and I'm like, oh, that kind of actually makes a little bit of sense. So,
well, which one? So I got an email that I posted and titled it "Sandoval sent me an email," because I got it says Tom is okay going against his contract to speak out. If he doesn't sign next season, then VPR is screwed. He knows he has the upper hand, which is why Andy is mad at Howie publicly, not Tom. None of what is written in there, I don't need a source to tell me that's not true. It's blatantly not true. They are mad at him. Bravo has the upper hand. He is a crumb on a cake. You get it, Tom? You are a crumb on a cake. And your story is still there for everyone to discuss and dissect, and the flashbacks are there without you. If they can do without Jax, they could do without you. If they could do without Stassi, they could do without you. Nobody is irreplaceable, least of all you. Actually, most of all, you. You are replaceable. Your mess is all there, and we could all talk about it.
I am going to beg to differ with you on this one. I think he kind of does have him between a rock and a hard place. And I want to talk about what he said, because like I said, I watched, I think, like 90% of it. I think I stopped when they started shaving the mustache. I think he does have an advantage because of how insane this story has gone. If he is not on Vanderpump next year, is there a Vanderpump? Because like, they can't just be talking about this. Like, I don't know. I
mean, I think he has a short-term advantage. I don't think they need him for that long. I think
yes.
Not
for that long. Yes.
I think if they call his bluff, he's not going to turn down the day pay or whatever the decrease in salary is. I don't see him turning that down. If he does, I don't know. We'd still get Raquel, so she still would want her check. Somebody also a follower sent me a question and said, what if they do like a deal where the whole cast bands together and says like, it's us or them? I don't think they will, because I think that they're all savvy enough to know that, even Ariana, that like this storyline is too good and too profitable for them to do that. So I think Sandoval comes back. I think it's a short-term thing. I believe that he will be done after the storyline is out. My source tells me that he believes that Vanderpump's only got another season after this one. So like the next, you know what? They've proven themselves to be the phoenix that rises again. I won't ever call this cast out. Peacock was nice enough to send me over the video showing Jax and Brittany, who are going to be recapping the upcoming episodes. Very much see them as a possibility coming back. I mean, talk about rising from the ashes. I mean, Jax, we all thought he was a has-been, and here he is, and this has revived their career. They have a successful podcast. They are now on Peacock. They are working with the network again, period. So anything is possible from there. Kristen Doughty can talk all the shit she wants. She did film this season. She is on The Boss, which is currently filming with our girl Jill Zarin, and I think we said Reza, right? And guess what? She's willing to go on that, which is not an established show. She'll come back to Vanderpump Rules. And then when you get these people back, who's to say where it ends? I mean, we might be watching Ocean and Summer and Cruz in 18 years. I mean, and Jack's walking with the walker. I don't count these guys out.
I agree with you. I think the show doesn't need Sandoval past next season either. And yeah, you definitely can't count them out. I think having this whole like Scandoval thing too made Bravo and Peacock and all the powers that be really realize like how invested so many people are, and that you can't just go by, you know, the most recent ratings and that kind of thing, because people are very invested.
Right.
I do want to just talk quickly because I feel the need to bring this up, and I am first of all shocked that if Tom had somebody prep him for this interview, whoever it was did a shitty job, because I feel like I got a very good insight into what Ariana was dealing with in that relationship. You know, like I can't even say the word gaslighting enough, because he essentially came on and said, didn't have sex, she didn't spend time with me. Like, he said, I had no mojo. I turned into, like, he didn't use these words, but like a one pump chump. Like, it was all because of Ariana. It was all her fault.
Right.
All her fault. Ariana just essentially pushed Tom into Rochelle's arms.
And I mean, I think that the outrage is that they were not married, but for all intents and purposes, and in most states, they would be considered common law marriage. And I think that anyone who has been in a 10-year relationship knows that there are highs, lows, and everything in between. And the fact that he said things like, I don't know how she didn't know. I mean, I guess she trusted me. Yeah, you think? Like, you were business partners in your cocktail book. You were business partners in a lot of like smaller things, a lot of partnerships and branding and all of this kind of stuff that maybe we don't talk about as much. So she was looking at it like you guys were a team. You were in this together. You owned a home. You made all of these big long-term commitments. And then you hear him referring to it as a brand. So it's almost like he stayed in it because it was a brand. Whereas I highly doubt that was Ariana's thinking. I think that she, like, do you know what I'm saying? If my husband and I are buying a second home, right? And we are buying a vacation home, and we're talking about how, like, that's where we're probably going to spend the majority of our time in our retirement. I'm not thinking that he's actively engaged in an affair and planning on breaking up with me because we're planning for down the road.
Right.
When people are dating and they're like, oh, this summer, do you want to go to Italy? And then the girl's like, tells her friends, like, I know we've all been in situations, or our friends have, where we're like, wow, I think this is kind of getting serious. Like, we're planning a vacation for next, like that kind of thing. Like, we're planning for the future.
Right. And this is, guys, like, and I'm sorry, Tom, if it, like, you guys had told us, both of you were in a committed, like, for life relationship. Just because we're married doesn't mean, you know, and that this is committed couples sometimes go to different weddings on a weekend when there are two weddings that happen on the same weekend. Because he was like, I mean, she didn't even go to this wedding with me because she had this other wedding. And I'm like, well, no shit.
Right.
You know? And by the way, we were right. Remember when we were talking about how we had heard that Rochelle had gone to St. Louis with Tom?
Yes.
And that we were guessing. I'm like, I bet his parents did not want to touch that. I bet they didn't want to meet her. And sure enough, that's exactly what the case was. And it is so insane to me.
Yeah, but is it enough not to want to meet her? Like, how about they say to him, listen, you either tell Ariana or we're going to tell her. Like, you know, I understand it's your child, and we're both mothers. Like, there's a point where if you expect me to be involved in your relationships as a 10-year relationship, the parents would be, right? And you introduce me and we spend time and someone is a part of our family for 10 years. At what point do you say to your kid, like, we don't do this. This is immoral and this is disgusting. Like, you're telling her.
I know. And who knows, maybe they did have that conversation. I mean,
Okay, well, that was December, and she found out in March.
yeah, I
So,
don't know.
sorry.
You're right.
Fuck his parents, too.
He also said they broke up on Valentine's Day.
What a joke.
I
What a joke
just,
that was. Like, I was begging her to break. Dude, nobody believes that. Nobody in their right mind fucking believes that. I'm sorry to curse so much. In the meantime, we have Ariana thriving.
yeah.
She's going to be on Dancing with the Stars, which I don't believe is officially signed, but let's like word on the street she's going to be on. And that ad yesterday in another red revenge dress in the middle of Manhattan filming for Bloomingdale's, like
Yes.
so boss with Khalees's The Boys Are Waiting playing in the background. I love a good Khalees jam. My milkshake brings all the boys to the yard is my shit. After a couple. Between Khalees and Pitbull, I'm really like early 2000ing it over here.
That's too funny. Yeah, I forget what that designer is, but it's a very recognizable designer. All the housewives have been wearing the dresses with like the big shoulder pads and like the deep V. She looks amazing. And I think that's the other thing all of us want to see is, you know, where Ariana goes from here next year and like how, you know, what her next steps are and how she's doing and all of that. And
what about him taking credit for her thriving? Like in the interview, he said something like, yeah, I mean, and now she's doing all this great things. And, you know, she was depressed and in a rut. Guys, I'm paraphrasing, but it was something like that. And now as a result of this, like, are you okay? Like, you're taking credit. Like, go away.
right. You know, and he even said at one point, yeah, we were both depressed. I would deal with it by going out and seeing friends, and she would deal with it by staying home and staying in bed. And I'm like, clearly, you know, anybody who's been through any kind of mental health situation, those are the people who are usually going to be the last people to criticize how anybody deals with their mental health. Like,
Correct.
He can't see anything but through his own eyes.
Right.
And that's what, you know, I mean, I know eventually Ariana is going to feel like, thank goodness, but it's just, this is a lot. It's a lot of betrayal. And watching Vanderpump last night and watching, you know, this whole wedding, which now we know this whole thing went down for the first time before this wedding. And so it feels so icky. And I think this is going to be a really hard thing just for her. Like every time she's like, oh my God. And like, then like that night they were screwing, or like he's giving her this look, or like at one point last night he was like, Raquel. And Ariana's like, stop saying Raquel, like so
And then
creepy.
he slaps her on the ass and like no one even
Yeah.
noticed because no one was thinking it. And Lisa Vanderpump says about the finale episode, she said, yep, Andy, because Andy said it last night, it's crazy to watch. I agree. I thought and expressed at the reunion one of the most astounding bits of film I've seen. Apparently, Andy did a one-on-one with Raquel, and he asked her in it, like, how did you sit there and talk to Ariana? I don't know. It's going to be explosive. People are like, I'm sick of hearing about Scandival, and like, so am I. But also, we can't stop because it's too much. I did want to touch on the rumor that Brock and Raquel hooked up. We have no receipts on that. This is somebody throwing something at a wall and hoping it sticks. My source says that they have no receipts. They know of no truth to that. I do know there was a comment on a post where he put like a flame or whatever. She was living with them. They were all friends. I mean, listen, it's very hard not to look at everybody with the side eye as a result of both the Toms. Tom Schwartz,
Right.
the way he handled Katie on the last episode, he is disgusting. I was so happy when she said to him, you're a liar, you're a drunk, and you're a piece of shit or whatever. Like, he is.
I can't even look at him anymore.
Ugh.
Like, just the way he even calls himself this like sad sack. It's like, I can't look at him. I cannot with him. I am so happy that Katie is out of there and that she is also thriving and doing her own thing, because she has got to be like, you know, again, who knows if she's there yet, but eventually she's going to be like thank God that is done, and I am out of that.
You want to know what? I think that Katie avoided a Schwartzevall because for what I think she admits that he had cheated. I mean, she admits it. She says it. So I think that she got out of there because she saw the writing on the wall that him and Tom were going to continue to do their thing, right? All she asked, she split with him. She said, just try not to hook up with anyone in our group. He couldn't respect that. Even though he didn't actually like her, and even though he knew his friend was hooking up with her, he still disrespected Katie in that way. So that just makes him even the lowest. But Ariana really trusted Sandoval, and I guess she saw his narcissism as quirky and career driven and all of these things, and it must be so wild for her to look and just see it like it's like doing a 360. Like you can view something one way, and then when you find things out, you see it in a completely different light. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. And hopefully eventually this feels healing for her to see it all. I can't imagine it's feeling all that healing right now, but again, too, like you just watch Rochelle and I'm like, I just don't see a lot of redeeming qualities about her. She's not funny, although Tom says she's witty. She doesn't seem that smart. I don't get it, you know.
Well, and that's what
I
Lala said last night. She's like, I don't think this is going to last. I think when all this dust settles, because listen, he's loving all this attention, negative, whatever it is. He loves attention. When all this settles and he turns to her and he realizes, how Lala put it was, she goes, when he looks at her and realizes, gee, there's just not that much going on there. Like now that the sneaking behind and the adrenaline rush of tricking everybody, including Ariana, is gone, he's going to look over at her and be like, womp womp.
what? Or if they do, let's say that the world goes crazy and they do date for a while. 3 years later, they're not going to be screwing in the backyard in the grass. Like that is just
not sustainable.
Not sustainable. So don't be in a committed relationship if that's what excites you. Like I don't know. I don't get it. I don't get her. I don't find her to be that attractive. I think she's one of those people who completely transforms by putting on makeup. And when I think the rest of the women, and sounds so catty, I shouldn't be commenting on looks, but whatever. They're gorgeous.
It's the perfect example.
I just don't find her.
I've always said, like, men don't cheat because their wife isn't attractive, right? And I mean, of course, we know that in our own lives. I mean, we know so many people who are like phenomenal, beautiful women whose husbands cheat with like secondhand bags. I don't know, like whatever.
Yes.
It's never about the looks, right? It's always about whatever the guy needs to feed their whatever insecurity or desire to be wanted. So like, her looks to me are irrelevant, like whatever. Obviously, we're all going to think she's ugly now, but listen, she's tall, she's thin, whatever. I just want her to go away. But then like everyone's like, yeah, but then there's no show. Like then they're all kumbayaing. So yeah, I guess we need the devils. We need the bad guys.
From the mom perspective, 10 years from now, she's got a few kids, she's married. Who's going to carpool with Rochelle? I wouldn't.
No.
I would be like, F you. Like, I don't want you anywhere in my friend group. Clearly, like, I mean, that lady, she's going to have a tough life. And as you know, the carpool, when you are a mom and you have kids who play sports and go to school, you know, the carpool is how we all get by. Good luck. Good luck, Rochelle. I hope you really like driving because you're going to be doing all of it.
I wouldn't even let my kid in her carpool if she said I never had to drive.
Absolutely not. Like, and who's gonna want to like go out? Like, I don't know. For me, I mean, my friends are, you know, what keeps me going on like the hard weeks, and because everyone has hard weeks, right? And having good friends, I'm like, she's really screwed herself. I think I don't see things being very easy for her, no matter what choices she makes for the rest of her life, because people will always. And I know there's, you know, the Scarlet Letter, but I don't think it's just the Scarlet Letter with her. It is I am a friend betrayer too, and that to
So
me is
that's
not something you
it
can
for
come back
me.
from.
And like honestly, that's why like a lot of people are calling Lala a hypocrite, which on the one hand I get it, but Lala was not friends with Randall's wife. Okay? So whether we want to believe like people say she's trying to act like she didn't know he was married. Let's say she knew he was married. Same with Sheena and Brandy Glanville when she cheated with Eddie Cibrian. They weren't friends with the wife. It's not the same fucking thing. I'm sorry. It's not. It's shitty. It isn't something I would do, but it doesn't mean that it's the same as what Raquel did. That is, she lied to
No.
an entire group of friends and
Right.
was very close friends with the partner of 10 years. But we got to move on from this because it just
We
turns
do.
my stomach.
We do. Okay. What are we talking about here? Let me see here.
We have that email from somebody about Corey.
Oh, okay. Got it. So, all right. So, Summer House, we know Corey from Winter House. Corey was a friend of Craig's. We also, in our guts, know they called Corey in to kind of shake things up a little bit because only having 3 guys was just not cutting it in terms of the fun and excitement of the show. It was too much couple of house, just like we had guessed. So he comes in, we see him flirting with Sam, who is one of the new housemates, blonde, super cute, career in fashion, smart. They seem to be liking each other. And then in the last week, she goes out and does some interviews on video where she goes into detail about yes, we're dating, talks about their dates, talks about how they spend time with Craig and Paige at Paige's apartment, that they all love each other to death are, words that I remember her saying. But what's interesting is we haven't really heard Corey say anything, and we haven't heard him say much. And then we got that email. Could have been from anybody. We don't know if it's true. Guys, we love to we share with you guys. We don't verify the blinds. Anybody can send us an email. So here's the email. Subject line is one-sided relationship. This newbie on Summer House recently shared her relationship on IG. However, the southern side of the relationship hasn't posted a thing, and he is still active on Hinge, which is a dating app. Hope she doesn't get hurt and that he's more serious than he seems.
So I really like Sam. I want to say, like, I like Sam's unbiased opinion on some of the stuff, specifically what's happening with Lindsay, because Sam clearly is new, getting to know everyone, and it seemingly likes everybody. So her opinion is really that of somebody just watching. And I think it's interesting to see how she's kind of like pointing out where Danielle could be wrong, because of course the housemates who have been there have their thing with Lindsay, and so she's their bitch who eats crackers, and nothing she does is okay. So Sam's fresh look is interesting, and she seems like a very sharp, bright girl. I am wondering, are we all waiting for the next scandal? Are we all being unfair to the men in Bravo, or are the men in Bravo cheating skanks? Because Hinge is like a very obvious app, and clearly Sam's friends could see him on Hinge and let her know, right? The same way I got the email.
Yeah.
Like, the interesting thing is when I get stuff, it's never can be a shock, because the same way followers send it to me, you don't think they inbox the people? Like, when there are cheating rumors going around, like about other housemates, you don't think the spouse is getting those? We're all getting them. So yeah. You don't think Sam is looking to see if he's on Hinge? And is it going to be a thing where he's like, oh, I was still on the app, but I haven't used it? Which to me, sorry, shady, delete it. Like, in our era, which I did not date in the era of dating apps because I'm a dinosaur, but I feel like if I did, once you made me official, we sit there together and we delete the apps. Like, that should be a thing.
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah, I don't know Hinge. I don't know if it's one that you have to pay for or if it's not, because I could totally see if it was something that he, didn't have to pay for. And I don't know about you, but I'm sure people do this. I'm not on a dating app, but like I have my email address that I use like if I'm signing up at a store or for like emails or things like that.
Right.
Maybe it goes to an email address that he doesn't check. I think there is a possibility that it really could just be something like that. So who knows? We'll see. But it is interesting that even now that Corey still hasn't come out and said anything. I think that is interesting. And maybe it's not the like everyone's looking for somebody who's cheating, but maybe it's like I also see an advantage for Corey and Sam if they are kind of still dating, possibly going into Summer House, with Corey possibly having more of a role on the show. We'll see.
I mean, and then of course you have to look at it from the and by the way, some cocktailers were like, B, you have to talk about the two blinds being true. And I'll get to the second one. But one of them was that when Ciara and Paige basically said on Watch What Happens Live, yeah, Jason is only being photographed with Giselle for clout. So there is that scope of it, right? And I'm not saying Corey's using Sam for clout because they're both new, but 2 stars are bigger than 1 star.
Right. And
that could be mutual. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's all on Corey, right? We never, listen, in the industry, you never really know. I mean, Paige and Craig have been dealing with rumors that they're, and Lindsay and Carl, I mean, they were engaged. People were still saying it was for the show. So you never really know. Somebody else sent something interesting in, Amanda, and I wanted to pose it to you. And then I want the cocktailers to talk about it because it's something I hadn't considered, but it's kind of petty. But several seasons ago, someone wrote in, on a Summer House reunion, Andy asked Carl, this was after him and Lindsay had dated, okay? If he thought he made a mistake or could go back and work it out with one of the girls he dated on Summer House. And his answer was, and I didn't remember this until this follower sent it, he would go back and work out a romantic relationship with Danielle. So this was post him and Lindsay. Do you think that's why Lindsay doesn't care too much to salvage the friendship? Because she's aware of the history with Carl and Danielle?
I mean, so first of all, I don't remember him saying that.
I do,
I'm
but
not saying
I don't remember if he was sober.
I just don't remember.
I want to know if he was sober because I feel like that changes things.
I agree, but he also acted like a total douchebag that summer, you know, with her and asked the Barry's. Right. I do remember him asking that Barry's instructor out in front of her, like just shitty. So I'm betting maybe he wasn't. I think I don't have any proof of this, but I think Lindsay is probably a very insanely jealous person. And I think she has had her eyes on the prize for the relationship and for the marriage and then to have babies. As we know, she's had this list. Do I think she would could I see her choosing her relationship with Carl over continuing to have her relationship with Danielle? Yes. And I will tell you, I thought that conversation that they had at the party, it felt very much like Lindsay was like, I am just going to put a punctuation mark on this conversation and just hug her so that it can be over, because I am not going to validate her really. I'm just going to say, I'm sorry, hug you, and like hopefully that it be over, is how it felt to me.
And continue putting distance between their friendship.
Yeah.
And what this person said to me, as much as I want to say no, I think that what you're saying about Lindsay is true. Lindsay herself admits she has certain abandonment issues and trust issues because of her childhood and past relationships. So do I think that in her rational mind, she believes that Danielle and Carl would ever get together? Obviously not in her rational mind. Do I think there's a part of her that those insecurities are pulling on her and she, you know what I'm saying? Like she may somehow be putting space between. And like, to be clear, you can't have the Tres Amigos when you're, right? Like, I don't know. when one person isn't. And I don't think it helps that Robert isn't really around a lot, because then it really is the three of them. And like, I don't know. When you're in a new relationship, you're not exactly always wanting to go out with like one person. I do feel though, and again, Danielle was living in Montauk, remember, and they were in the city during the week. But I do feel that Lindsay is much more willing to accept all the guys in, like Luke, like Andrea. You know what I'm saying? Like they still hang with that boar who, what was that guy's name? Alex? Yes. They still, like they just posted a picture. All the guys were out eating pizza. Like, I don't know. Lindsay works better with men.
Yeah.
It is what it is. So is some of that a result of like the Danielle and Carl thing? It could be. I mean, if they had never been a couple, maybe she would have rode for the friendship a little harder, or maybe she would have still chose whatever. I don't know.
I just go back to, I think if you're going to be Lindsay's friend, it's going to be on Lindsay's terms. And to me, that is just not, I think Lindsay's going to have to learn that lesson the hard way. And hopefully, I hope she learns the lesson and realizes, like, even if you have a great marriage and a great relationship, you still need your girlfriends. You still need your good friends outside of that relationship.
But you know what, Amanda? You and I are very much girls. She may not. She may be good with having her relationships that she has outside the show, which may be a little bit more surface level, but it's somebody to get a pedicure with. She may be fine with having Luke and Andrea. Like, I don't think all women need, like, I'm a person who believes that women are so integral to my life, starting with my mother, through my cousins, through my sister-in-laws, through my daughter, through my friendships. Like, I don't believe all women are like that. In the same way that I can't really relate to women who are like super tight with guys. Like I have guys I'm friends with, but I've never been a person who has, I mean, I have childhood friends, but it's also those friendships have evolved as we've become adults. And now it's more, a different level. Like, I don't know. I've never been, other than my husband and my brother, I don't have very close relationships with men. And some women may find that weird.
I did before. So this is kind of a funny story, but I had two like best guy friends, and maybe I shouldn't tell this story, but anyway, long story short, one of them I ended up marrying, and like, we became more than friends, and the other good friend is still a good friend, but not the same level, right? Once you're in a relationship, I just don't think at least in my situation, I didn't see that.
Listen,
anyway.
I think it's different too if it's a colleague. Like if you work in an office, I know one of my close colleagues, I know one of yours is a male, and like him and I certainly, we chat, we'll call each other, but I don't know, it's always almost a little bit about work. And then like if for some reason there's I don't know. It's hard for me to explain. It's hard for me to explain.
No, I totally agree. I have male clients that I consider to be my good friends, and like we talk to each other, but I don't just text them on a Saturday and say, hey, do you want to go on a walk together? I always keep a certain level of separation, right? Because they're married, I'm married, right?
And it's not even, I don't know, even when I was young, when I was in college, of course you have friends that are good friends, but ultimately they always end up wanting to hook up. I mean, that's just has been my reality. So I don't know.
Yeah. Yep.
That's
been my experience too. So maybe that's not always true, but I don't know. What did you think about Jersey?
I mean, I was happy that we got a somewhat lighthearted trip. Beautiful castle in Ireland. I have been to Ireland several times. My mom was Italian. My dad is Irish American. So I love Ireland. I think it's funny that they're all scared of the castle because it's just that like European architecture is old. It's not haunted. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. I liked that Jen admitted for the most part that she set up the coffee grind reading. Like she finally kind of gave in. She's like, eh. And I like that Marge was then again like knocking her like, you don't even remember. She didn't say because you were high. But then Jen was like, wait, you know what? I may have said more than I'm remembering. Like obviously she had to own it. I mean, even Teresa was like, oh, God, this is uncomfortable.
And the limerick. I loved the limericks.
Yes.
I thought we should have like a cocktailer limerick contest.
What about
just
Fessler
because
saying she hooked up with James Gandolfini?
I don't know why, but I found that kind of hot.
I mean,
Tony Soprano, he had some kind of energy about him.
do you know that I actually looked into this because when we were in COVID and lockdown, my husband and I did a whole rewatch of The Sopranos, as
nice.
I think a lot of people did. He was like 32 or something when the show started.
Really?
Right? If you look at his face, it's just, I think, because number one, he was heavy set and the balding, and I don't know, why did they make people look so much older? Even that was like the late 90s. I don't know. I think the beef with Danielle and Rachel is trivial. It's so obvious. They're sort of just making it known whose side they're on.
Yeah.
And it makes me say to myself, like, was it always this obvious on Housewives? I feel like more than ever, and again, we see this on all the franchises, there's not a lot of crossover. It's like you ride or die for one, and you got to stick with that for the season. And then between seasons, sometimes switches can happen. But the hypocrisy of Jen saying that she wouldn't say anything about Melissa's making out rumor, but then saying it to Danielle, girl, you guys are on camera, you're being filmed, you're outing it. I mean,
that original, I was just going to say, going back to that original conversation when Danielle comes over to Jen Aiden's house, I think it might have been the first episode. Like, you can tell by all of their faces when they're on the FaceTime with Teresa that there's a setup coming. You can tell because they're not that good of actors, and you can freaking tell. And so I'm surprised that it was such a slow burn and that it didn't come out earlier, which is interesting. But I think that I get the feeling the filming for this season was really compacted because I think with Teresa's wedding, because they wanted to make that the final thing, because it's like, we know that Teresa has come out and said, I got COVID like 2 weeks before the wedding. So then, like, I think they went to Ireland like literally within a couple of weeks, because then Teresa goes to Ireland and then it like comes back and it's the wedding, and it just feels like everything's like bam, 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 because you can also tell because by the weather, it's summer, and we know that Teresa got married in August. So anyway.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think that if we forget about blaming Teresa for that, because clearly that's Jen, whether she told her to do it or not, whatever, we have to go back and remember what we know, which is that ahead of filming, this rumor was known. And Teresa and Louis went to Joe privately and discussed this rumor about Joe's wife of almost 20 years cheating on him. Now, obviously, him and Melissa are mad about that. They're not saying that on camera because they can't yet. And this is where these shows get annoying. Obviously, we now know about Pizzagate. They're mad at that. They can't say that on camera. Now, I'm not even debating whose side you're on. Teresa could sit there and say, well, if I thought she was cheating on my brother, I'm going to tell him. Like, first of all, if I suspected that my sister-in-law of that amount of time was cheating on my brother, it would be a conversation that I had with the both of them, because that's what I would want done to me. And like, then they can figure it out from there. If it's true, it's still going to be true. You know what I'm saying? But like, you don't have to make yourself the jerk who doesn't include your sister-in-law in the convo, right? So as far as people saying like these are old beefs, yes, we know that Teresa has never forgiven the Gorgas. But these are actually new beefs that just are not being discussed currently. So I think their old issues linger. I think the real stuff is the new stuff. I think that's why the Gorgas are so pissed, because you hear them say, like, why are we talking about the past?
Right.
I mean, it's just...
And I thought Melissa, when she said, you know, it's never Teresa's fault, right? It's your fault. It's your fault. She's like, it's always my fault. And that I think that right there is the reason that I have never connected with Teresa, is that is something like not having accountability, you know, in relationships. Like, you and I have talked about this multiple times, like seeing with other housewives and with other people, you have to mean it when you say you're sorry. You can't just say, I'm sorry you feel that way. I'm sorry I made you feel that way. Right. There's a certain level of maturity and grown-upness to be like, I messed up. I am very sorry. I know that, you know, these words were not nice, or this thing that I said was not nice. And, that's how grown-ups apologize. And there is something very childlike about Teresa, that she doesn't ever take accountability.
It's obtuse. That's the word. It's an obtuse way of thinking. And I think the perfect illustration of it that is very easy to point out is Teresa did not have Melissa in her wedding, she says, because in the previous season, she didn't shut Marge down. However, Teresa herself never shut Jen Aydin down. As a matter of fact, she agreed with her calling her brother a bitch boy. That right there is proof. It's the same actions. They're allowing their friends to say things. Melissa is saying, I told her to stop, but I don't have control over her. Teresa isn't even saying I told her to stop. Teresa's saying, well, you were acting like a bitch boy. Like what? So then and then we have Watch What Happens Live. Melissa was on again. Higher ratings than when Teresa was on. I mean, I'm just, okay. The reason I keep pointing this out, I'm not saying that I believe Teresa should be off the show. Clearly, she is great reality television. I'm not debating that. I just find it funny that people are like, Melissa has no storyline without Teresa. Well, Teresa's wedding is over. Unless she wants to focus on her new marriage, she probably should keep her brother and sister-in-law on, and we should probably keep bickering, because even the strongest relationships don't fare well on reality television when they're the highlight. And I don't see Teresa having anything else to highlight.
Yeah.
Unless she just takes a back seat and it becomes more Danielle, more Rachel, and continues to be a lot of Jen, which is a possibility, at which point Teresa will then have to do what Margaret does so skillfully, and that is stirring up the pot and stirring up storylines, and that gives you a role. Teresa, however, she's not good at that. She would need a producer feeding that, and she doesn't like to be in the line of fire, so I don't see her going that route. I don't see how or why she would make any of her daughter's stuff a storyline, and even if she did, it couldn't be a full storyline.
Yeah.
I mean, unless Juicy Joe, gets back to the States and then we see him integrating into their family, which would be an incredible storyline. I think it would also show a side of Louis that probably isn't so loving and accepting of the ex. It's so great and nice to be loving of and accepting of an ex who lives in another freaking country.
Right.
You know, if he had to do what Paulie's doing with Frank, it may be a little bit of a different thing. Let me not even use the word maybe, and let me not say a little bit of a different thing. It would be a totally different thing. So I just think that for Teresa, it's a careful what you wish for. Because do I think that if Bravo was given the ultimatum by Teresa, they will choose her over the Gorgas? I do. I don't know that Teresa will give that ultimatum because she could pander to her fans all she wants. I don't know that she wants to move away from that storyline. She clearly doesn't value her relationship with Melissa or her brother. So to continue ruining it and wrecking it and driving it into the ground is no skin off her back. I don't see her wanting to put her marriage in the spotlight. I don't see her wanting to do it.
No, I don't, not at a deep level, like, for example, Jen and Bill have, where they're going into therapy together. I think Teresa wants to put Louis in the very best of light and not show some of the ugly. I just don't think Teresa's ever been one of those people who has really, I don't think she's had a choice, but I don't know. Here's something crazy. What if she decides, you know what, we both have been wrong. Let's try to figure this out. And we see some therapy between her and her brother, and I think that would be interesting to me, because we keep hearing left and right from Andy, from Dolores, from, I don't know if Melissa herself has said this, but they're never ever going to be friends again. They're never going to be good again.
Although Joe said on Watch What Happens Live, we're family, it's never really over. And of course, the Teresa side said he's only saying that to stay on the show. I can't speak to whether that's true or not. I don't know him personally, but I feel like he's always he has never said it's over. Teresa has publicly said it's over. Melissa has indicated that she's sick of it, which isn't the same as her husband. It's her husband's sibling. It's not her sibling. And, people could talk all the shit they want about Melissa. The fact remains she is very close with her two sisters. She is very close with all of her aunts. She is very close with all of her cousins. These are just facts. And, Marge said in an after show, when everyone around you is the problem, when Kathy and Rosie and your aunt and Rich Wakili and to some degree Joe Giudice's family, although she doesn't discuss it and I think it's classy, we know that, you know, whatever that is. And that's more complicated too because he did put her in jail if you want to, whatever.
Well, they have kids.
Right.
And, yeah.
And I think that she does do a really good job of keeping that co-parenting relationship. I actually think, considering who she is in all her other relationships, and that's why when people want to say things like, well, when Louis turns on her daughters, I'm going to be the first one to say, if he were to ever do that, I don't believe that she would ever in any capacity, you know, people throw around the word narcissist. I don't think she would ever go somewhere where her daughters were not close with her, living with her, a part of her life. Like, I don't believe that in any capacity. I think that she would sacrifice any relationship in her life for her kids, period.
Yeah.
You're not sold on that.
I don't know. I just don't know. I think if Louis is the master manipulator that a lot of people bring out, you know, I think there's, who knows? Who knows? So, no, I agree that her relationships with her daughters are the most important thing in her life. I think, you know, we've seen a preview for her getting teary when Joe Giudice is on FaceTime with the girls when, you know, and Teresa is about to get married. Like, I think Teresa's probably like, I never wanted this divorce. I never wanted any, you know, I think she was like, I would have died next to his side and would have made this.
Which isn't the same as being in love with him. But I do believe.
Yeah.
And he was on her podcast and I listened to it. You know, a lot of people are very critical of their marriage. They think that he was this and he was that. And the reality is that they both were happy in their marriage. They both publicly say they were happy in their marriage. I do believe that if he had come back to the States, they would have tried to work it out. I think at that point they had been separated so long that Teresa started to move on. But if they hadn't had the whole jail thing, I think they'd still be married. And I don't think it's fair for us to say what marriage works for other people. Like, even in the case of Louis, people have a lot to say about it. But if it's a marriage, if she's okay being married to a controlling person or whatever it is people want to say about him, that's very much her choice.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it is what it is. And she even said once, like, I'm no angel either. Like, she's not an easy person.
No.
You know, and then the other argument that people make, and I'm sure Joe Giudice's family has made, is, you know, he did all these illegal things, but he also was keeping up with the lifestyle she wanted and trying to make her happy.
Right.
So, but that's a whole other ball of wax that we won't even get into.
It is.
But I do believe that there is a genuine forever love between Teresa and Juicy Joe. And I think should anything not work out in her current marriage, I think Juicy Joe would be there for her always in a heartbeat for anything she needed. I think that goes without saying.
Yes, I think so too.
I think he has a lot of regrets
like they can
too.
be friends.
I mean, he's dated, but certainly he hasn't had anything like she's had. And I'm sure there's a piece of him that maybe when he got out of jail wishes he would have tried harder to do something.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I definitely think so too. Because I think, you know, there is a real love there. And when you have kids, you know, together, there's something that's part of a relationship that you'll never have with anybody else. Right. And that they uniquely have with each other. So anyway, regardless, I commend them for, you know, staying friendly and for having a great co-parenting relationship. And I commend Juicy Joe for seeing all this happen from afar and staying supportive, because that can't be easy to be him and not be able to be there and have another man, right, you know, a stepfather in the lives of your daughters either. So good for them for putting the kids first.
And I think that the way he's handling it, the distance, is the sort of thing where he has to believe what Teresa and the girls are telling him because he's not there. And for his mind to even go to a place where this guy is the thing that people are saying is too hard for him to envision, knowing that he has little control from the Bahamas. So I get his position completely.
Yeah. And I think, you know, like looking at Dolores and Frank and, you know, and Polly, right? I actually think that the Dolores and Frank relationship, she said it multiple times that it took them a while to get there. But again, that's a great example of how with time, that if you have common interests, meaning your kids, you put that first, and that there can be, there's a real friendship there with them. And anyway.
Yeah, I don't like Paul putting the
that.
kibosh. I like Paul. I don't like his reaction to her and Frank's relationship. And those of you who follow my Insta know that last night there was some sort of charity dinner for the hospital that her ex, Dr. David, works in. And Dolores was there because, as we know, she is, she does fundraisers for the hospital. Mm-hmm. She was there with Paul, and I heard that Paul avoided saying hello to her ex. So it is not unique to Frank, which to me, I think is ridiculous. First of all, her and Frank are divorced 20 years. He is clearly in another relationship. It's just a family bond. It is not a romantic bond.
Right.
And it hasn't been. It's not like they divorced 5 years ago. I mean, you're talking they're divorced 20 years. If they were going to make a go of it, it would have happened.
Right. I think, but maybe Polly's perspective is like, look, I want to establish this relationship with you. Like, Frank I'm glad that you have this, but let me be the one to change the light bulbs for you and run to Home Depot when you need more batteries. I don't know. I kind of see both sides of it, and just he might just be like, let's just have some time. I need a little space from your ex-husband. I can understand that.
I get that.
I don't know.
I get that.
I don't know. And does Polly have kids? I don't think he does.
He does.
So I think
he does. He has two boys, I think.
Oh, he does. Okay. Well, then I was going to say, if he doesn't have kids, then I could especially see him not really understanding the relationship. But if he does have kids, who knows? Anyway.
All right, cocktailers. It's been real, but we got to run. We got to go. Till next time, we appreciate you guys, as always, for tuning in. We know there's tons of podcasts you can listen to, and the fact that you tune into Cocktails and Gossip means a lot to us. So, till next time.
We love you guys. Thank you guys so much for listening. Just want to ask you guys a favor, just getting kicked off. So many people have been asking us to do this podcast. So please do subscribe. And if you've subscribed, go to your podcast app and hit those 3 little dots to share with your friends, but only friends who like good tea, because the ones who don't care about tea, then forget them. And don't forget, find us on Instagram at bravoandcocktails_. And check out the website, because some great tea gets put there daily that would get us kicked off of Instagram. So thanks for listening, everybody.
Bye, guys. See you next time.